So your book draws this distinction between reason and rhetoric, or reasons and rhetoric, and I think it's a good one. And I think it's very important when we talk about argument. The problem is your book really doesn't, at least in the text, give any explanation or examples. It doesn't make this as clear as I would like. Now, I think the exercises cleared up a little bit, but it would be nice if we had a better grasp on this distinction before we get to the exercises, right? So I want to say a little bit about it and hopefully give you guys a better idea of what's going on, make you a little better equipped to actually handle the exercises, which will hopefully give you an even better grasp of this idea. So an argument gives you reasons to believe a claim is true. A reason says, well, this is why you should believe this is true. Now, rhetoric is another way to try to get people to believe something, to accept a claim. But rhetoric doesn't actually give us reasons to think the claim is true. Now, philosophers often really hate rhetoric. I'm trying not to be too down on it. It does have its uses. I'll say more about this. But the important thing is that we shouldn't be convinced by rhetoric alone. In fact, rhetoric shouldn't carry any real weight in an argument. So when we're assessing an argument, or even seeing if something is an argument, I think we need to ask ourselves, well, is there rhetoric here, and what role does it play? So I think to make this distinction clear, it'll help to look at some things that are arguments because they rely on reasons, and some rhetoric that goes for the same sort of conclusion, or is trying to get the person to believe or do the same thing, but is not giving us any reasons. That's pure rhetoric. So here's an example of an argument. You should adopt a dog from the shelter. Lots of dogs need homes, and people with dogs live longer than people without them. This is giving us reasons to accept a claim, right? We'll talk more about how we find conclusions and about the structure of arguments, but even without doing that, it should be pretty clear what the conclusion is here, right? You should adopt a dog from the shelter, right? Then it gives us two reasons to think we should do that. You might not like this argument, you might not think it's a good one, but at least the person is giving us reasons for this claim, right? Contrast that with this, which is not even an argument. This is pure rhetoric. Poor, defenseless, innocent animals need a loving home. A loving home you can provide them if you open your heart today. Won't you be a hero? Right? There is not an argument here at all. This is trying to get you to do something, to adopt a dog, or I guess a cat too. It's not too specific here. It's trying to get you to do something, but it's not giving you any reasons to think you should do it or that it's a good idea, right? It's playing on your emotions. It's making these high-flown claims. It's using these loaded words. There's no reason in support of this claim you should adopt an animal, right? Here's an argument. Other countries will only have reason to seek peaceful solutions if they know they cannot beat the American military. So if you value peace, you should support robust defense spending, right? You might not buy this claim. You might not even think that this is a terribly good argument. We'll talk more later. If you're going to make an argument like this, it's missing a whole bunch of premises you'd have to fill in. Talk more about that implied premises in a week or two. My point is, at least it gives you reasons for a claim. If you value peace, you should support robust defense spending. It gives us at least a reason. Other countries will support peaceful solutions only if they know they can't beat our military. Good reason or bad, it is a reason. Contrast that with how can you possibly want to cut defense spending when you know American troops rely on it? And only fools think that we can avoid spending money on defense, so every right-thinking person realizes we need robust defense spending. This isn't giving you any reason to think robust defense spending is a good idea or we need to do it. It's just trying to trick you, sort of guilt you into doing it, right? It's using these devices, these rhetorical devices. It's not giving you any reason to think this is actually a good idea. Hopefully, we'll do the exercises. I think they'll help, but hopefully this gives you at least some idea of this contrast here of what rhetoric is versus reasons. If something has no reasons, if it's pure rhetoric, as the second slide in each of these pairs is, then it's not even an argument. Now, it's actually kind of rare to see pure rhetoric. Not unheard of, but it's kind of rare, right? Usually people will mix in rhetoric and reasons. In actual writing, it's very rare to see nothing but reasons. It's also pretty rare to see nothing but rhetoric. Most people are smart enough to realize pure rhetoric is not convincing, or at least it shouldn't be. And on the other hand, we'll talk about this more in a second, unless you mix a little rhetoric in, your writing is going to be pretty dry, pretty hard to read. So often a good idea to mix some in. These next two slides are something you'd see more commonly. You should adopt the dog from the shelter. Lots of dogs need homes. And people with dogs live longer than people without them. Open your heart to a rescued dog today and meet your new best friend. Right? You see some reasons here in the first part. The last sentence is a sort of rhetorical flourish. There is an argument here, but keep in mind the rhetoric is immaterial, irrelevant to the argument. Final example, other countries will only have reason to seek peaceful solutions if they cannot beat the American military. Our brave fighting men are not enough. They need the most modern equipment. So if you value peace, you should support robust defense spending. It is naive to think otherwise. We've thrown a bit of rhetoric in, talking about our brave fighting men, talking about it being naive not to believe this, but again, we still have reasons for the claim. It's not pure rhetoric. Now look, when evaluating an argument, you need to find the rhetoric and cut it. Just leave it out, just ignore it. Now philosophers, our friends in English and communications, often get mad at us because, we really are down on rhetoric. And I think rhetoric has a role. If you are writing, rhetoric is like decoration. And that's not to say it's unimportant, right? We like decoration, we like pretty things. If we didn't, we would all live in concrete boxes. Concrete boxes will keep the rain off of you and keep you warm, and you have a place to put your stuff, but they're ugly, right? Some rhetoric in our written arguments make them prettier. That's very nice. But I will say to our friends in English and communications, rhetoric is of secondary importance. When you are looking at an argument, rhetoric is decoration, it's not structure. You guys are going to get sick of me using this architectural metaphor, the building, arguments are like a building. But I think it's a good one. Trust me, you guys will get sick of it. You're going to be, oh my God, he's talking about the building thing again. But I do it because it's a good way to think of this, right? Decoration isn't unimportant, but it's not as important as structure, right? If you had the choice between living in a concrete box and a pretty nice house, you will choose a pretty nice house. Decoration isn't unimportant. On the other hand, if you had to choose between decoration and bad structure, hopefully you would choose good structure, right? Your structure's bad, the thing is going to fall down on your head. You don't want that. In the same way, structure, if you have to choose rhetoric or structure, rhetoric or reasons in an argument, the reasons are more important. Rhetoric not unimportant, but especially if we want to know what to believe, very much of secondary importance, not as important as actual reasons.